Our next guest joined the Army in 1992 and attended the Special Forces Assessment and Selection course to become a Green Beret in 1997. In 2013, he was medically retired due to numerous combat injuries. In August 2021, he directly assisted in evacuating U.S. allied personnel and their families from Afghanistan and continued to provide support for their resettlement. His involvement with the Global War on Terrorism Memorial Foundation began while he served on the board in 2016. He is currently the president and CEO of this much-needed memorial. Please welcome Michael Rodriguez.
Buenos dias, good morning. I hope the talk to text can keep up with my accent, but I see my hermano from Puerto Rico kind of preceded me, so I think we'll be able to keep up. My name is Michael Rodriguez. Most people just call me Rod. I was blessed to serve this nation for 21 years, and I have the undeserved honor to lead the Global War on Terrorism Memorial Foundation. God has been good to me. I pray he continues to do so, and yes, I will go to church. You know, and it's okay if a lot of you have never heard of what we've been doing. This is an effort that started back in 2015 when some like-minded veterans and family members came together and realized, like, look, we need to start the process, which is a 24-step process, to build a national war memorial in our nation's capital to honor all those who have served in our longest war, a war that continues today. So we were blessed we submitted a piece of legislation in 2017, got an authorization, but then, and the American Legion were pivotal in that. We would not be here without them. And then the American Legion stepped forward again to help us build this memorial where it belongs, on our nation's front lawn, within the National Mall. If I was to define the American Legion, I would use 3 words: purpose, direction, and motivation. It's what those of us in the Army defined as leadership. I got here on Thursday. I got to hang out with a lot of you. For those of you who made it over to the booth we had, I think I might add a 4th word to that is inspiration. Many of you might be longer in their tooth than I, but some of you are younger than I. So it's good to see the American Legion continue to grow and be as welcoming as you are. Never have we existed as a nation where our sons and daughters have watched their mothers and fathers go off to fight in a war, only to serve in that same war. I cannot imagine what it would have been like for my father, who served in Vietnam during Tet, to hug me after basic training and airborne school and my training, and then watch me to go fight the Viet Cong. I cannot imagine what it would have been like for my grandfather, who served during World War II, to hug my father after he graduates basic training, completes his artillery training, then goes to fight the Nazis or serve in the Pacific. That's our reality today. For those of you that did come over to see our booth, there was a young man with me, Sergeant Antonio Rodriguez, my son. He had just been home about a month ago from his recent deployment, and he's on leave. I was like, hey, Miko, why don't you come with me? I'd like you to join me at the American Legion and see what it's about. So you got to meet that man, that warrior, my son, who has served on the same battlefields that I have served. That son was 4 years old when the towers fell. That's all he knows is a nation at war. Not only did I serve 21 years and deploy 10 times, but that young man's mother served for 21 years and deployed 5 times. Yet he still chose to take the mantle of service, much like many of you do. Much like many of you have done. And I thank you for that, for none of us would be here without you. There are 4 tenets that guide the construction of this National War Memorial. It's actually it makes sense. And these are the 4 tenets that guide us. Honor. We're going to honor everyone's service. While we are over 7,000 KAAs, those in uniform, we are over 3,400 non-uniform service members that have served on the battlefield that have lost their lives. 3,400 non-uniform service members have lost their lives in service. I know this. I served alongside on my Special Forces detachment with those that weren't in uniform, but they were carrying a gun, running in harm's way. Their service and sacrifice in this war and how this nation fights wars deserves to be honored. We're honoring their service. Our most sacred stakeholders are those that never had the opportunity to come home. But we're extending it further. As you mentioned, as I mentioned, excuse me, you know, service for me took on a completely different level when I'm standing at Green Ramp at Fort Bragg. I'm hugging my 19-year-old 82nd Airborne Paratrooper son who's heading to the Helmand province of Afghanistan, which is one of the most inhospitable places on this planet, to perform a very similar mission I had done, his mother had done some years prior. I hug this much taller, stronger, better-looking, smarter version of me. Turns around, picks up his machine gun, his backpack, walks towards the back of the bird right there in Green Ramp, for those of you familiar. All I see is a toddler walking away. That was the most challenging deployment of my life, not those 10. We are recognizing the family service and will honor their sacrifices, as I'm sure many of the auxiliary members here can attest to. Heal, our second tenet. For anyone who has stepped foot in the battle space or on the battlefield knows it's going to come home with you. It will be with you for the rest of your life, and many of you have been dealing with it a lot longer than me, and your bravery and strength inspires me. Healing as a nation is necessary. Healing as a community is necessary. Empower, our third tenet. Provide the opportunity. You've heard a little bit about my story, but there are millions of stories like mine. Each one of you has a story. A veteran is a veteran is a veteran. The only thing that differentiates me from many of you who preceded me is our time in service. You guys are my familia, my family, and I love every one of you. But we need to provide an opportunity for the current generations that are fighting in a war with no end in sight, the opportunity to tell their stories. And we will do that. Empower. Our fourth tenet is unite. We unite as a nation. There's this term that's tossed around quite freely, and I don't even like to use it, but I'm going to use it here to kind of deliver a message. There's something called the civilian-military divide. I can tell you right now that does not exist because of many of you. My father's generation, the Vietnam generation, swore what happened to them would never happen again. And I thank you for it. And I love you for it. Unite. There's no such thing as a civilian-military divide. That died in the 70s, thanks to you. What we have today is a civilian-military misunderstanding. When you look at those that wear the uniform today, if you look at World War II, 11% of the population served. Korea was 7%. Vietnam was 4%. At any given time, right now, actually, less than 1% of our nation is serving. They're not any less great, but they're carrying a lot of weight. But they're no different. They're everyday Americans placed in extreme circumstances, performing extraordinary feats. But they're no different. We will remind this nation and this world what this nation really is, particularly on September 12th. We will unite. We will come together and remind ourselves, whatever bucket or demographic or wherever you think you belong in society, you're an American. Americans only think like Americans, and many of you who have traveled can attest to that. We will unite. We hope as a foundation to point to a spot on the ground in 2023 to tell you where this is going to be built. I hope to start showing you by 2025 what this memorial will look like. And start digging in the dirt, start digging. And this is an open invitation to every single one of you. By 2027, I want to see you there when we cut the ribbon on this thing. I got to watch the groundbreaking ceremony of the Desert Storm last month, as well as the unveiling of the Wall of Remembrance at the Korean War Memorial. And I can't, I wish I was a poet or could sing. That's the only way I could describe what that emotion is. I look forward to sharing that with each and every one of you. So one thing I will ask each of you to do is to tell this story. Those younger veterans in your post, or if they're not in your post, share it. They are the future. That young man that I just referenced, Sergeant Antonio Rodriguez, is the newest member of the American Legion. While he was here, he joined. That is the future of the Legion. And I'm sure you're going to stand right alongside me to ensure its future successes as the nation does continue to provide purpose, direction, and motivation. Thank you all very much, and Godspeed.